Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
Tonight we talk about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 40, Compulsions.
Yes.
I felt like this episode was the beginning, the fight, and then meeting the Gorgine.
Yeah. And the beginning was literally a recap of extension, but more felt like a recap of the previous episode.
Certainly a re-adjudication.
Yeah.
And, Imogen calling mom and that becoming, proving fruitless and disappointing.
Yeah. Hello, Mom. It's me, Imogen. Are you there?
I liked that. This is the first time Matt has ever been playing a parent of one of the players and not given them the connection.
Yeah.
Or tried to recontextualize whatever trauma the player or character felt they had.
Yeah.
Because even with Bo's dad, who arguably was the worst of all of the parents of Campaign 1 that we met. Or 2, yeah. Sorry, Campaign 2. Even his abuse was recontextualized in Bo's mind.
Yeah.
And she was able to find some measure of forgiveness for him. Where in this one, thrice she reached for her mother, and thrice she was denied.
Yeah. And interesting you should make that biblical reference. Because had a thought. Is Imogen's mom? Is Imogen a Hercules type, a demigod type?
So you're with Travis.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice it on my first watching it live, but in my rewatch, when Travis is watching that play out, he seems to suddenly have a realization. And he does what he always does when he has one of these, is he looks at Matt with a particular look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Matt wasn't giving him anything.
Matt was working very hard to not give him anything.
To pointedly ignore him, because I think you could see that Travis wanted his attention.
Yeah. You can tell. He saw it out of the corner of his eye and said, nope.
Yep. So what does Travis do? Travis takes out his pen, looks at his watch, and then starts writing.
Yep.
Because what Travis was doing, what time is it? At this time on this day, I had this thought, and if it ever comes out to be true, I wrote it in my notebook, right here.
On camera. Yeah. Like, I don't know that I fully subscribe to that, but it definitely crossed my mind.
I think she is not connected. Well, she is connected to Riz, but she is not in any servile capacity. She's not trying to further the goals of whatever Ruid is doing. Or maybe she is in some way, but she doesn't want to be. And that's why she doesn't want Imogen anywhere near her. Sort of like, to bring it back to Fullmetal Alchemist, starring 2 of our cast members, when Olivier comes to Central, she immediately is abusing Alex in full view of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes the family fortune from him, the house, sends her parents off. And Alex confronts her about that part. Are you sending them away so they won't be used as hostages? But he doesn't say anything about her treating him like dirt so that they don't think they can use him as a hostage against her.
Yeah.
And so if Imogen's mother is being forced in some way to be involved in this, and she doesn't want Imogen to be used against her, keep her as far away. Which is why she can't know where her mother is. That was my thought. Also, one of the things that I wanted to mention, Travis jokingly was talking about that he wears elastic underwear.
Yeah.
Elastic made from rubber, latex, which is the blood of trees. So Chetney would totally use it for garments.
Yep.
I don't know if Travis thought that through.
Nope.
But in my head canon, when he was saying that, I was like, no, that checks out.
Fair enough.
The big portion of the next biggest part when everyone's together is the examination of their time together. That every time something good happens, something bad happens.
Yep.
And they can't, nothing's just good. Ashton is the only one who, at the tail end of that scene, is the only one that says, I'm used to it being all bad, so it's a little different for me. Like, it went from all bad to good and bad.
Yeah.
It's a step up. I'm wondering where Sam is taking FCG, or if he has a plan, or if he's just grasping in the dark, vis-a-vis his search for meaning.
Yeah.
His walk down the clerical path, and in some ways having to do it in double step. He's having to fast track this since he's been a cleric for 7, 8 levels. I did love the, I just found out I have a soul, and then this thing's alive.
Should have had a pipe check in.
Like, does he have a soul? Point of fact, he does not. Whether because it's a familiar or it's an imp or both. But yeah. I don't know if it was intentional or not. So I want to put it in my category of best unintentional joke of the night.
Okay.
Is when they're going through talking about who has had an incident with the moon. And they're like, well, Orem has the moon's tattooed on him because he's left the room now.
Right.
And Fern going, who?
Well, no. See, what they said when they were talking, and they're mentioning like the Nightmare King and stuff because they're talking about the moons and links in. And right after they say Nightmare King, the line is, Orem's got them tattooed on his arm. And I think the who initially was, wait, who does he have tattooed on his arm?
Oh.
Because she thought they were saying he has the Nightmare King tattooed on his arm.
Well.
And then they're like, Orem, the moon's on his arm? She's like, oh, yeah, and led into the joke. So I think it was completely unintentional.
Yeah.
I think it was a misunderstanding of the words that were said in the moment, and then turned into a joke.
Yeah. But
because I had the same when she said who, that's where my mind went. It's like they said them. Wait, does she think?
See, and I thought she just didn't hear the Orem part. Didn't hear the name.
Oh, no, I think she was referencing the tattoo.
Yeah, they were saying
who's the
okay.
tattoo?
Okay,
because they said he's got them as in the two moons, but they were talking about like the Nightmare King stuff. So she thought then referenced the Nightmare King tattooed on his arm.
Gotcha. Anyway, that's. I mean, it's still funny, but
yeah. So I'm agreeing that it was the unintentional joke.
Orem uses the sending stone to send to Dorian.
Yes, and I cannot wait to hear Robbie's response.
Yeah, and this was the moment Taliesin made MVP for me.
Yes, same.
I mean, he also did other stuff in the episode.
Very much so.
To be worthy of it. But in that moment, immediately, when he interrupted Matt from giving the response and going into the scene with Orem, it made it so that gave Matt permission to do, since the response is not sort of important to what's to go forward, I'll have Robbie give you something. And I think that is probably the best way to do that. For many reasons, but also I think Matt may work with him to try to say, what is Dorian up to?
Yeah.
What's happening in that part of Alexandria? And just give them a little bit. Because it's possible Keyleth met them.
Yeah.
So if in her running around the world she needs something done, hey, I know this guy. Send him. So he could actually be working for the Council of Tal'Dorei.
Yeah.
And they have
all
a
the crown
vestige.
Keepers.
Yeah. So
yes, it is. My number 2.
So Orem's attraction to Dorian and everything. Liam keeping scene continuity after Ashton leaves. He says, I miss you too. Was that aimed, do you think, to Dorian, who just sent a response? Or to Will?
I think it was Dorian.
Interesting. See, I think it was probably to Will. Because he was out and he wanted to make sure that both moons were out when he was out there. And there's some echoes of Sokka and Suki and Yue with this love triangle happening, where Will would be Yue, who is dead and is represented by the moon, and Dorian would be Suki, the new love interest, or rekindled love interest, but he can't express it in view of the moon, kind of thing.
That could be too.
And I think it goes back to when Orem was dying and he was fumbling for the stone.
Yeah.
And then he sees Will, and Will says, "You're not done." So I think that's what Orem's struggling with right now.
I can see that. I took that as you got more as like I'm releasing you kind of thing. And that's why I thought it was Dorian. You know?
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, it works either way. In the moment when I first watched it, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Is Liam keeping scene continuity? He's received the response from Dorian.
Yeah.
And he says it so that Dorian can't hear it.
Yeah.
That was my initial read.
And that's my read.
Okay. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it could have been Will.
Yes.
So, point 2 of why Taliesin I gave MVP for this episode is the display of personal growth that he puts on in that scene. Like, Taliesin's the rescuer for getting us Robbie.
Yes.
Voice message next episode. But also, he's like connecting with Orem, which is not something that he, by his own admission,
wish I could punch a werewolf.
would never do. Admits that he likes Chetney. Don't tell him I said that. And Orem gives him physical contact.
Yep.
Which is something that he's avoided from everybody at all times. And
that's happening.
And this is also one of the lines that got a lot of response on Twitter that I saw, was when he's like, when you live with pain all the time, it just sort of becomes background noise. So, yeah, such a good scene for both of them.
Yeah.
Juxtaposed to the comedy of which one of us will betray the other's next. Rose, I also thought the same thing.
Yep.
That gets us closer to him talking to Laudna.
Yep.
And yes, same, on the same wavelength for sure. Our travel montage continued.
Yep.
And some weaknesses. Weakness is probably the wrong word. Some real differences between campaign 1, 2, and 3 is the volume, the frequency of combats. And how Matt thus far hasn't made progression in the story reliant on combat.
Yeah.
So there's been fewer of them. And the only time we seem to get it is random encounters traveling. For the most part.
Yeah.
And Huboy, even Taliesin this time. Travis is always like, let's fight something.
Yeah.
And is trying to find a way to do it. But even Taliesin this time was like, damn it, I wanted to kill something.
Yeah. I just want to hit something, man.
Yeah. And Matt reveals that greater than 3 on the D6, if they get an encounter, means they are outside to be affected by it. And so he's giving them a little peek behind the mechanics. So they can pray specifically for numbers.
Yeah.
Rather than a general outcome. And they do. They've already got the range on the D20 that they're looking for. And then they understand with the D6 now what that means.
Yep.
And I think Okay, maybe Sam does have a plan for where he's going with FCG.
Okay.
I know I just asked a minute ago if he does or not, if he's winging it, but maybe he does.
Okay.
Because Sam, the player, knows an encounter has been rolled. And so before that can happen, he says, I'm going to ask the Changebringer for a sign. Because he knows no matter what it is, it's going to be bad. So he's... Which gets back to his good and bad thing earlier in the episode. So he has a plan.
Okay.
Anyway, more storms, and then we get some cockatrices storm the ship, and they start wiping them out quickly.
Yep.
And turns out they're running from something, which is a great setup for an encounter, especially a bunch of little monsters, low CR monsters.
Yeah.
That aren't really a threat, that you can choose to engage with or not, wipe out or not, to be being chased by this big thing. Because it does two things. One, it allows the players to feel awesome as they're just carving through the cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Two, especially with our group of players at this table, they waste resources.
Yep.
Like third level spells.
Yep.
To kill cockatrices.
It's not a waste if that's what it takes.
Well, I mean, fair enough, but I was just like...
Yeah. No, I was too.
It's a concentration spell. You're going to keep doing damage. Unless it's like a big thing that you need that 3d12 to first soften it up. Just do it at level 1. You know? And Taliesin and Liam, I think, were really on fire in the fight. In terms of their tactics and their descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And just having fun with it. Before we get, I want to do some more positive about it. FCG, the sign that he gets from the Changebringer is birds that turn people to stone. Which is hilarious in retrospect.
Yes. If you want some positivity, we got to witness Ronan's first steps at DMing.
Yeah, yes. And I have a joke about that. But we also get to see Imogen's new spell.
Yep.
I had posited last week's video's comment section that it was going to be like an AoE storm-based thing.
Right.
It's a summons. And you know how much we sing Laura's praises, that I love her as a player.
Yep.
She's great, catches on to things faster than everyone at the table most times. She is horrible with components and narrating her spellcasting. In Campaign 2, Matt would occasionally add, you present your holy symbol, ... and then continue with her description of what she wanted to happen. And we had the joke a few episodes ago you needed to say a word of power to activate the Pearl of Power?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Hey, for 2 campaigns, never knew that.
Yes. Yes, Snoopy. Her new spell is the spell that required the ruby.
Yep.
And I was so frustrated when she said, I don't know what that is. I don't know. It just happened. Because thus far, she has positioned her new spells that she takes as extensions and expressions of continuing mutation.
Mm-hmm.
This time it annoyed me. Because the player designed the spell, knew it needed this component. Therefore, the character, the last time they had a shopping opportunity, bought the component. Why did she buy it if she didn't know what was going to happen? So, either Imogen is lying to her friends. That's one possibility.
Yeah.
The second is she was compelled in some way to fixate on buying this ruby.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Laura intends to square that circle.
Yeah. My initial thought was maybe the spell has different effects, but there was no roll to see what effect or anything, so that got quickly ruled out.
Yeah. So yeah, that really did take me out of the episode, completely. With her saying, I don't know. I'm like, and no one's going to do an insight check on that? They were all over Chetney later when he's talking about his time in the Savalier Wood, south of Utherdurn.
To be fair, Imogen's a lot more trustworthy than Chetney is.
I mean, her charisma is definitely higher, for sure. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about was Taliesin saying, every time we get in a fight, you have a new power.
The glow up.
Yeah. Technically incorrect. But from a biased perspective, accurate.
Yeah.
But that's what happens in a campaign where you go 2 episodes between combats.
Minimum.
And you're leveling up every 8 to 12 episodes. 4 combats a level.
You can display a different upgrade each time.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a caster.
Yeah. And with the way that because it's so few combats, and they alpha strike everything, and that's the difficulty that Matt has in his encounter design. He has a lot of players, they alpha strike every combat, so he's dealing with the top level spell slots of all of his casters every time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I am hoping that because this is Travis's story that we're in right now,
mm-hmm.
and I could see from a mile away the setup of the Trial of the Worthy, that the next episode or 2 is going to be a dungeon crawl, a la for most people, Aor.
Aor, Happy Fun Ball.
Yes. Those instances of Campaign 2 that are well loved by both players and audience alike. I think we might be getting that coming up.
I agree. I thought Craghammer from 1
Oh, yeah.
with Carlotta.
And they're at that level.
Yeah.
They're of that level right now.
That's what my, I mean, essentially the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. And I have to, well, I guess I don't have to, but we use Matt and Critical Role often as an example for running the game, being a game master, decision points and how to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like to point out when rules are applied in error or forgotten or when mistakes are made, especially when things go badly for the players and people try to blame Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And I can point out, no, Matt actually made more mistakes in the player's favor. In this encounter, he did.
Mm-hmm.
He gave Fern, Ashley, an extra action because it's an action to bring forth her fire spirit. She used a bonus action to cast Flame Blade, moved. He said, well, you could ready your action. So she said, oh, okay, I'll do that then. Because the DM says you can do that.
Yep.
DM says you can do that.
You can do that.
You can do that. Especially if you're Ashley and don't know the rules like Liam or Taliesin do. And Sam runs for his kids, so I think Sam has a better rules grasp than he lets on.
Oh, yeah, easily.
But I also know that Sam doesn't enforce rules at home. If that makes sense.
It's a rule of cool.
Yes. So, yeah. Anyway. And the other thing that he did is he let FCG, the restrained character, move twice.
Yeah.
They took back the healing, but I think he probably still had range to heal her. Because healing word's 60 feet.
Yeah.
And that's most of that ship. So, but they decided we're going to take back the healing. And, which we also got a reveal of one of her invocations.
Mm-hmm.
That maximum healing if her familiar is within 100 feet. I think we might get more of Pate. Right now, he's still kind of new, and Matt is sparingly having him pop in because it's the first familiar we've had in the campaign that can talk.
Yes.
And Pate is new as a familiar, where Caleb came in with Frumpkin.
Yep.
And Liam being Liam, Frumpkin was always there. So, yeah. I expect more from Pate. Yeah, Rose, and that's a relic of EXU and the choices that Abria made, that Mister was always there. Because because she was the DM. And if you want to flavor it that way, that's what it is. And it was interesting to have the flaming spirit come out.
Yeah.
Of this monkey. But I think for Matt as DM, it's too much. And so
yes, it does.
People's reactions to the players always are muted for several reasons. One, I don't think Matt wants to derail his campaign and story with an overly aggressive negative reaction to them. Two, from a world building perspective, when weird shit happens all the time, raising an eyebrow is pretty much all weird shit's ever going to get.
I think we will see reaction when Pate comes out while they're interacting with an NPC. Because yes, weird shit happens all the time. But a rat with a crow's skull head and his ribcage for wings pops out, there's going to be a reaction. Even in a world of magic.
Yes, but thus far, Matt is controlling Pate and the NPCs when Pate makes an appearance randomly.
Right.
Which is why I don't think it's going to happen. Also, imps at will become invisible. So, unlike where Caleb had to dismiss Frumpkin and could bring him back out at a moment's notice, she doesn't have to do that with Pate. Pate can just be invisible.
And I think that is going to be the status quo. He's just invisible, hanging out on her shoulder or her belt where he was hanging.
Yeah. I'm also waiting for, speaking of more interactions from Pate and reactions, I am waiting for Pate to piss her off. He says something, does something, and she's like, you know what? Go. And he...
See, if that happens, I see it more that he'll say something that'll be offensive to Imogen, and she'll get mad at me. Laudna will get mad and be like, go. Not cool, dude.
Yeah.
Time out.
Either way, that I think is more likely than Matt randomly bringing Pate out in the middle of conversation with an NPC just so the NPC can freak out. But yeah. And Rose, I think him laying flat against her hair he goes invisible.
It's the reflavoring of the invisibility.
Yeah. Her initial reaction to, oh, the puppet has a mind of its own now.
Yes. It's no longer my regressed bullshit that I'm dealing with. It's now his regressed bullshit that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's always one thing when you're being the dirty-minded one, but then when someone you don't expect counters you with the same energy, it's always a little off-putting.
Yeah. Yeah. Or holds up that mirror.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned Ronan, which Matt revealed is who picked the Chimera.
Yep.
And Travis and Laura were surprised by this. Didn't know. Which means Uncle Matt was babysitting. When would Uncle Matt babysit?
Date night. If they're both got gigs.
I think date night is most likely.
That's why it was the first one said.
So my joke was going to be, does that mean in a few months we're going to have Ronan the Second announcement?
Imogen and Chetney get kidnapped.
Well, Imogen could, I mean, if it comes down to that, and the campaign's still going on, she could go to Rudis.
Yeah, they both end up on Rudis. I mean, he's affected by Rudis. We've seen that.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Fair. I don't mean to turn this into is Laura going to get pregnant or whatever, but that's just the thought process that went through my brain is, oh, Matt must have been babysitting. Why would he be babysitting?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Sam asked, restrain, what does that do? And I'm like, Sam, doesn't D&D Beyond tell you conditions? I'm pretty sure it
that
does.
would require reading. And you know how well he stays on the ad prompts.
Fair.
And that's the shit he's paid to read.
Yeah. But that's just, I was just like, especially because he got interrupted and just Travis was, and I was like, Sam, it's on your tablet. Just look it up.
Well, and over the course of 3 campaigns, how many times could he have read something and said, hey, what does this do?
Fair. And we have to give him shit because he gave Laura shit about the Pearl of Power.
It adds to the I don't know the rules persona.
Very true, very true. We also got an example of why druids don't often multi-class rogue. Spell ranged attacks are not weapon attacks. No sneak attack. Sorry. Which kind of makes me wonder, is she going to look into weapons that she can use her sneak attack with?
Maybe.
Does that mean we're going to see Firm with a short bow?
Probably not. If anything, it's going to be a dagger or a dart. Maybe a sling. Yeah, and I
would like a sling just because it's concealable, and that's right up her
alley. Yeah. And while you say that, I didn't even think of that when it was happening because honestly, sneak attack is one of my least desired rogue qualities when I play a rogue or a multi-class different rogue. It's yeah, sneak attack is great, but it's not for sneak attack.
Yeah, fair.
And I know, like, a lot of things like that, I'm the outlier.
In this case, you definitely are.
I'm not the normal D&D player.
Most people are rogue and fishing for that sneak attack.
Yeah. Fishing for ways to double those dice.
Yeah. I think Rose is correct that she can sneak attack with Flame Blade, because I think it does say it has the finesse property.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true.
Yes, you can sneak attack with Flame Blade. Just like you get sneak attack with Shadow Blade.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing that let's see. When she attacked with the flame blade, she was by herself and no one was nearby. She didn't have advantage, so she didn't have sneak attack. And instead of going up into melee with the Chimera, she cast Scorching Ray. And I think she was hoping she'd get a D8 with every dart, or every ray. But no, it's just once. But 6d6 plus a d8 is not bad.
No.
And I'm wondering if she's going to take Elemental Adept to allow her to add her Wisdom modifier.
If she does what she did last campaign and goes to Travis for advice on a feat.
Fair.
Which is why both she and Marisha took Sentinel last campaign.
Yeah. But they missed the one sentence that Sentinels can't proc off Sentinels.
Yes.
Which really is unfortunate. And doesn't, like, in some ways doesn't make sense, but in other ways it does.
Which is why you get one person with Sentinel and then one person is either a Cavalier Fighter or Order of, or Path of Ancients Barbarian.
Yeah. Which is, I think that's what we did in the game.
That I ran.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex was a
Cavalier
and you were the
Sentinel.
You were the Ancient.
Ancient, yeah. Both of them.
Yeah, you did those two.
Ancestral Barbarian.
Yes.
Yeah. That was so good. Oh, yeah. I liked... Oh. They very quickly glossed over it, but what occurred to me when they were like, oh, because Mr. has the gun now from Percy. I was just thinking about Koba in Battle for Planet of the Apes, I think, the second movie, where Koba comes over and is acting all dumb at the humans, and then takes the M16 and... Yeah. I mean, and they made the joke that this is how Planet of the Apes starts.
Yep.
Already, so yeah.
Exandria of the Apes. There's another one shot.
Oh, that reminds me of a meme I just saw before the show. It's the woman and the cat meme.
Yeah.
Only it's two ape-like creatures. And one's like, you're going to be shitting in a clay-filled box. And it's a white saber-toothed tiger. And it's like, you're going to clean it up.
Yep.
But yeah. I enjoy... Well, okay. I both enjoy and cringe every time Travis brings up the origin of Chetney as Chetney.
Mm-hmm.
And I did in this episode when they're like, what was it like being next to that thing? It was like, as if every child's toy order in the world came in at once.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I loved it when they're like, what about your happy place? Because they're trying to counsel Chetney about what to expect when he's with the
I
good
love
DNA.
when they're talking and he's like, well, how do you know it's going to be, it could be, great civilization building crystal towers, and Dylan's like, yeah, because transparent walls are what you want when you're affected by the moon.
Taliesin was on fire that whole time. Because, and when he's talking about his happy place, he's like, oh, so you don't want to go out and harvest the wood. You want, pre-cubed wood. He's like, oh, yeah. And Talison's like, that's a cabin.
Pre-cubed wood, all right. Just kidding.
And then, like, the cherry on top, sealed the deal, Taliesin MVP for the whole episode is his insanity, lunacy comment, which was largely ignored by everyone at the table.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated that. And it would be Taliesin to do that, so yeah.
I love the, how are we gonna get them? Well, they you guys all smoke, so just produce a scent. I don't know how it works. Do you guys just, create one on at will?
I wonder if Travis has thought about how each of them would smell. Because he seemed to be on it.
Yeah, I think he has. Yeah, because when they were asking, he's like, yeah, you this, you this, you this.
Fair enough. One of the things that Matt didn't do, which he probably should have, especially if he wanted to play up the horror aspects of going into the jungle filled with lycanthropes, all their perception checks should have been at disadvantage. Or flat if they have advantage, or heightened senses. Everyone, because the rain.
Yeah.
Rain notoriously washes sense out of the air. The white noise of the rain covers sound, so your enhanced hearing doesn't matter.
Yeah, your enhanced smelling doesn't matter.
Yeah. But he didn't do that to them. And also, I think Matt displayed a good example of prepare something that you can drop in anywhere. And I think he had the idea that however they were going to find it, they would find this ruined fortress from the war, and that would be where this meeting was going to take place. And he decided, we're here, the players really want to do this, we'll do it now.
Yep.
Because that could have been slotted anywhere, at any point, anywhere in the jungle.
Yep.
And if they're not working off of a map directly, you can get away with that.
And ruins the maps
especially.
out in a long time. Either.
Oh yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. Chetney howls. Probably doesn't work. So they all howl. That probably did work. That's probably what got their attention. They come in. We have the parade of lycanthropes.
Yep.
Were-tiger, were-panther.
Were-boar.
Bear, and 2 wolves.
Yep.
And Laudna takes to the panther, as blows Travis's mind that there's a were-panther. I'm wondering if he had some kind of visions of Panthro. Because Travis is of an age where Panthro is an influential humanoid panther in the mind of...
He was my favorite Thundercat.
Yeah, same. So yeah, that's the questions that I have when I saw that. I was like, I wonder if he's thinking about Panthro.
And I love the form of dread and using it to fuse her wooden limbs to make herself a backpack on the...
Yeah, and we've had some questions about that and whether or not the Sun Tree was going to be Laudna's patron. And I thought the tree motif was just in the moment.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't see it again. We've seen it twice now.
And just, right before we saw it again, I said, did they just forget about that? And that's when you said it was in the moment thing.
Yeah.
And now it's back.
Yeah. So I obviously was wrong. And there's obviously something to it.
Yep.
Or it is simply a way that Laudna is processing that whole thing.
Yeah.
So
No, like my thought is that like Delilah used the tree, gained power through it. They vanquished that shade of Delilah, and now it's the source of Laudna's powers. So it is her patron, but not so much in the Delilah sense of the patron.
Interesting.
Because that was her.
I mean,
she's reclaimed that power.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still of the opinion that Delilah is still her patron, and that's going to bear fruit later. Because I think, as a warlock, if you want a different patron, you got to do some legwork for that. In my opinion, it doesn't just fall out of the sky. Well, yeah. Could she get more power from it? That's true, and we don't know that she has any more desire to go further in warlock. Like, she didn't think she would get the 3rd level at all anyway. But story-wise, it made sense for her to take the level.
Yeah.
So I don't see her...
Well, it can tie in with the sorcerer. It can tie in, like, if you want to do some reflavoring, and I know I don't remember if we've talked about it on the show or not, but I know we've talked about the idea of something inside you being your own patron.
Yes. Yeah, last week we were talking about that.
And just and that's why I say, like, that world they went into was designed as a Laudna creation, something in her psyche, and like, the whole psychology theory of parts.
Yeah.
The different parts of you. And that tree is a part, and it's where she's pulling that power from.
I think Matt has solved his name problem. Make it so they can't pronounce it. Say Haydun. Something like that. The Keeper of the Savage Heart, apparently a servant of the Wild Mother, is the judge of this trial that they're going to go on. And they extracted promises from his companions. If he goes too far, will you kill him? And they said, yeah, except Orem. And I think, actually, while this is Chetney's story, as it were, this is his quest, I think we're going to get backstory on Fern and Ashton.
I think so, too. The thing that stood out to me was it kept coming back to those who can't control it are killed.
Yeah.
And Chetney's first meeting with them, and Matt gave raised eyebrows when he said it, was, yeah, I recently just lost control under Ruidus. Like, you what? And I think that's why the test is going to come in. Oh, is this someone we have to kill?
I also thought that, but I don't think that's the purpose of the test. Because their reaction seemed more of, well, nobody's perfect. If you try to keep a handle, that's what they want. If you try to keep a handle on it, that's the important part. Because the people who fight the curse and still have to be chained up, they allow to live.
Yeah. It felt like that was a backtrack. Like, you what? Oh, wait, let's see who this guy is first.
And see, I
don't think not everybody who's willing to be chained up is allowed to live. I have the feeling that they, like, this test is a judge of their character.
Okay.
If they pass the test and you need to be chained up, yeah, fine, while you learn to control it. But if you don't pass the test, you're not of the right character, and you can't control it, you're dying.
Interesting. I can see that.
So it's not so much the test. I mean, it is to see if we need to, but it's more of going to be a test of your character. kind of like the test of high sorcery on Kryn.
Yeah.
You go into it, yeah, you can lose your life in the test, but basically your actions in the test determine whether you're white, red, or black robed.
Yeah.
Whether you're part of the community, in exile, or dying.
Yeah. It's fair. But I am excited to see what Matt has in store for us, because I do think it's going to be some kind of long chain of encounters.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle that. But we will see this Thursday.
Yes.
And we will be talking about it following Tuesday. And it has been a while.
Yes, I'm excited too.
We'll see you guys next week.